I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to The Conversation with Al McFarlane. Today is Friday, September 9th, 2022. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. Let me first begin by saying that on Fridays we have what we call the Healing Circle, and we are joined by our colleague and leader in the arena of health and healthy thinking, healthy doing, healthy being, Dr. Bravada Garrett-Akinsanya. She heads the Brakens Consulting and Psychological Services. She's also the principal at the African American Child Wellness Center. In disclosure, I am a member of her board. I chair the board of the organization, but I'm also a friend and a believer in her work, her vision. I also tell people that since we're talking about mental health, I enjoy disclosing that I am also a patient or a customer of Dr. B. And I say that to encourage Black men in general, people in general, to take advantage of the knowledge, the training, the expertise in our community that we deserve to be healthy, we deserve healing, and we have to be clear enough and able enough to ask for help when we need it. And even if we think we don't, it's always good to check and ask and go forward. So with that, I want to say hello to my colleague and co-host, Brenda Lyle-Gray. Brenda, how you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing good. Good to see you. Let me introduce you to one more person that you haven't met yet. You're meeting just now, and that's Dallacy Brooks. Dallacy is joining us from Cape Town, South Africa, and she's going to be part of our team going forward, helping manage and create, supporting Vash and us in the conversation with Al McFarlane. Dallacy, how are you? You have to unmute.
Sorry about that. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. How are you?
Good. Well, so glad to see you. Thank you for working with us and joining us. Let people know a little bit about you.
Okay, so my name is Dallacy Brooks. Al has already said I'm originally Malawian, but I'm here in Cape Town, and I'm currently just finished with my Bachelor of Science in Business Management in Finance Emphasis through BYU. I'm busy applying for the I just took too many things. So I'm just busy applying for masters or to masters, and then I'm also busy with the I'm the director of the public affairs for a nonprofit. It's based in Idaho, but I help out there. So yeah, I'm busy with that as well, just helping out. It's a program that helps here people in Africa to be more self-reliant, providing the micro grants funds to help them out of poverty, get them out of poverty. And so, but my vision is to get more education and tools and resources to bring it back to Africa to help people to get out of poverty and be more self-reliant. So yeah.
What a wonderful and timely vision. Well, I'm certainly glad to connect with you. Let me share with you what we've been doing and continue to do, where I see us going. One of the things that we do is our newspaper Insight News, right? And that has included a section that we call Afrodescendientes. Afrodescendientes, Spanish for the descendants of Africans, because that's what I call myself. I refer to myself as an African in the New World African. But I claim Africa, and I am developing what I call an African way of knowing. And I'm trusting both genealogy and intuition, trusting my feelings and exploring the presence of the ancestors that I believe are with me all the time, that are with us all the time. And if we are able to focus and meditate, pray, however you call it, intuit the internal indwelling knowledge, we learn about a way of looking at the present that incorporates all of the power, the genius, the innovation, the invention of our forebears, even though that knowledge may have been cut off from us by the transatlantic slave trade, for example, or by colonialism. there's a way back. And I think that as a people, as Africans all over the planet, and certainly on the continent, we're finding our way back to our original selves and to our greatness. What do you think about that? Does that resonate with you at all?
Absolutely, absolutely. I believe we are all connected in a way. We come from one same parent somewhere. So absolutely, I strongly believe that.
Great, Brenda. What do you think? What are your thoughts
Well,
right
I
now?
wanted to tell Delacy just the hearing of Cape Town. My Siberian Husky was named Biko, and I was always a fan of Steve Biko. So you come from
okay,
wonderful
great
country, and I'm not a flyer, Delacy, so I might not see it, but welcome.
Thank you,
welcome.
Brenda.
Look forward to all of what we learned from, Cape Town. Love it. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank
Let
you.
me do
Such
this.
a pleasure.
My first guest has arrived, and that's a brother that I've had a relationship with for the entire time that I have been in Minnesota. And I guess we're trying to make sure we have the sound ready. Okay, the sound and the visual ready. Spike Moss is a friend, a leader, an elder. And right now he's doing what he's been doing the entire time I've known him. And that is trying to create intervention on behalf of children, young people, families, Black folks in difficult situations. The difficult situation I'm referring to right now is that last night, I think there were 3 separate shooting incidents right in this neighborhood where I live. One a block or 2 from the police station, which is like 3 blocks down the street. Another on West Broadway, which is where our office, the Marcus Garvey house, is, and another further up in North Minneapolis. And I asked Spike at the last minute to come on and talk about how the community is responding. Spike has always been the front line, sort of a warrior promoting peace. He's been an activist trying to get our children and our families and our young men to disavow gang activity, to convert their energy into productivity and healing for our community. So I'm glad that he was able to jump on this call. Spike, let me bring you in, and good afternoon, brother. Tell me what's going on. First of all, what happened last night? Horrific as I'm reading it and hearing it. What went on?
Well, as usual, it's the same old thing up on Broadway. We have 3 hot spots, where the drugstore is, the gas station across the street, and then the liquor store and gas station the other direction. We have had open drug markets there without people in our community even standing up. I don't expect a mother or father to deal with gangbang stuff. I just expect him to at least go get your kid. If each one goes and gets their kid, you minimize and begin to bring it down. But as you sell the drugs there's going to be disgruntled customers, and there's going to be other members trying to move into your area to get that money, and then you're going to have gunfire.
So what did happen? What happened on Plymouth Avenue, and what happened on West Broadway?
Well, a shootout as usual, just like you saw on the news the night before, where all them people were shot. We're shooting downtown, we're shooting in the clubs, we're fighting and shooting at the fair, we're shooting at the funerals, we're shooting at the graveyard, but our people have not come together. So what I saw today at 10 o'clock this morning was Black people come from North Side, St. Paul in numbers and shut the gas station down, go across the street, shut the liquor store down, nothing going in, and everybody got to leave the lot. The community is going to have to do more of that to bring this down, because you know yourself, Al, if cancer's a side of rice, you got to cut it out then. If you leave it alone, it takes over. And unfortunately for us, when it was building back up after I did those national gang summits across the country, it was Ryback and Don Samuels who said there is to be no money for those patrols, and they weren't there. And this thing has built all this time to where it's at because of the decision they made and the words they told the foundations. And so the young men who are willing to go out and disarm this and bring it down was never allowed. And now it's full-fledged. Along with, it's not even just gang wars. They shoot about whatever they want now. They shoot wherever they want now. It doesn't matter if it's a member, a man, a woman, a child, a baby. They just shoot. We got so much mental illness, and we got so many people addicted with guns in our community now. It's like total madness. When I spoke to all the preachers at Bishop Howe's church earlier this
Bring
year.
your camera around a little bit, Spike. There, yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah. When I told him at that church that this is a spiritual war, the devil's moving across America from the East Coast to the West Coast, and if we ain't ready, the devilment's going to take over. I also said years ago, and you know this, Al, I said when Chicago people move to Minnesota and you haven't determined how they're going to live here, they're going to determine how you live here. All the above is happening to us, as well as the community is flooded with more guns, more war guns, and more bullets than an army at war. And now you got armor-piercing bullets. So I'm just saying, and then you got the magazines that can go more than 40 rounds. I was in a meeting with the past chief over in St. Paul that just retired.
Mm-hmm.
They went to a home.
Bring
there
your
was
camera
100.
back around. Bring your camera back around. There
Is
we
that
go.
it?
Yeah, a little bit more. Perfect.
Right there?
Yeah. Yep. That's
All
it.
right.
Yeah.
I was talking to this chief in my house. He said he went to a home. There was 174 rounds on the ground that had been fired. He went inside and found another 100 and something. So it tells you the size of the magazine they're using and the type of gun they're using. So this is the first step. And it was Reverend McAfee who called me early this morning, and he asked me to meet him at 10 o'clock. And we went to that gas station where the last three just got shot. And we just shut it down, gas, everything, and ran them off. Of course, they were violent and talking crazy and what they're going to do if we don't leave them alone. But we stayed there till we shut it down. Then we went across the street to the liquor store and shut them down. But they're going to have to do more of that to take back the community on both sides of the river, because you're losing your community. You're going to have to do it.
Tyrone Terrell was on with us a couple of days ago, Spike, and said the same thing you're saying, but giving examples of how pervasive this problem of violence and guns is. And one of the things he said that was really discouraging and frightening at the same time is even the fact that in some schools, teachers will report that a third grader will say to the teacher, "Don't make me go home and get it." And the threat is not a veiled threat, it's a plain threat. The child is saying, "Don't make me go home and get my gun." And go ahead.
I went to City View Elementary School. A young man had moved here from Little Rock, Arkansas, organized the Bloods in that grade school to the point where he had them all show the school in their black and red one day, and then show their power by beating up the patrols and stuff at the corners.
This is a elementary school, right?
Yes. And when we took him in the room to talk to him, we brought his mother up there, and we were handling him pretty good. And he got frustrated, and he turned to his mama. He said, "Don't let them jump all on me like I'm the problem, mama. Tell them all my brothers and sisters' fathers in a gang might not be my dad, but they in the gang too." So you're talking about generations, but Al, this is what I've been saying all over the country, trying to make it plain to Black people. The KKK has been in business for 77 years. Black people have now killed more Black people than the Klan in 177 years. I said the Vietnam War is 5 years long. We were 7% of the front line. We've now killed more Black boys in the Vietnam War. Last year, we broke a record with 100,000 dead in this country. In war, you have jail, prisoners of war, and you have injury and you have death. We are officially at war, and no one has declared it. And it's our youth destroying our future.
What do we do, Spike? Where do we go?
They have to keep organizing now. I have said repeatedly across this country, when the men stand up, the boys sit down. Most of these boys out here have never been raised by a man. Most of these boys are from single parent homes. The mother might not have the strength to know what to do or might not know what to do. So the boys out here in the street, that's when I changed the message to, we don't need you to attack them boys. Just go get yours. Just yours. If you are terrified of yours, then call a pastor, an uncle, a grandfather, a cousin, somebody who can talk to your son rather than ignore it while they raise havoc all over the Black community in the United States of America at this time.
Bring the camera back around. Bring the camera back around again. And so what's going to happen? Yeah, that's a little bit more. what's going to happen today? What do you want the community to do to join you, to support us in responding?
When Reb calls this meeting to go back up there, we need community to go with us. I asked Reb early this morning to contact all
Reverend
the preachers.
McAfee at New Salem, just
Right.
people don't know. Yeah.
I asked him to contact all the preachers and have the preachers notified on a given day. We want to fill up all them sites with preachers and church people and announce we reclaiming our community. You start right there. You're going to have to bully the bully.
Spike, brother, thank you so much, man. Just come back whenever you can and keep us updated. We're going to keep on. I thank you. I am grateful for you, as I always have been, for your courage and your vision and your tirelessness. Thank you, Spike Moss.
Have a great day, brother.
All right, man. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation, and what a conversation it is. Tribute, praise to brother Spike Moss. Pray that he stays safe, because he's dealing with an arena where there is gunplay, and the gunplay is real, and lives are being taken, lives are being lost. What this conversation came out of was reports in the news last night and this morning that there were 3 separate incidents of gunplay in North Minneapolis, right where I am. The first one about 4 blocks from where I'm sitting, and then another one about a half a block from where the office, the Marcus Garvey house, is over on West Broadway, and another one further up in North Minneapolis. But in all cases, it seems he's saying young people with guns, and that guns have been proliferating throughout the community, and that the community has to come upon some way of responding. Well, let me open the program as we normally do by bringing in my colleague and my host, Dr. Bravada, Garrett-Akinsanya. Dr. B, how are you? Good to see you. Dr. Oliver Williams, good to see you, brother. Come on, Dr. B, and let's do a reset and move the conversation forward. We're going to talk later today with a couple of people in the community who are doing something Sunday, dealing with the question of drug and opioid use. So that's part of today's conversation. I see Angela Reed from Turning Point is here, and she's going to be sharing with us what's going to happen that's important. All of this is related. Dr. B, I'm going to pass the talking stick to you to have you do a reset of this program today.
Okay, thank you, Brother Al. It's so nice to be here. And I too am very upset, but not surprised that we continue to hold our children under these violent circumstances in community, that they are exposed to the gun violence, that they are often the perpetrator or victim of that violence. And I loved what Brother Spike was saying, that when Black men stand up, boys sit down. And I also heard him say that most of these kids aren't, well, a lot of the kids, not most of them, a lot of the kids aren't engaged with their own fathers. And that in community, if we know that if you don't have a sense of family, gangs are happy to make you have one. They're glad to substitute a mama or a father or a brother or a supporter or a coach. They're happy to substitute them, because then they get control over your destiny, and then you become someone who's used at their will. And so one of the things that I always want to talk about is that the truth is these kids do need dads, but guess what? They got moms, and these mothers need to be empowered. We can't hold up our brothers and neglect the fact that these Black mothers are raising these Black kids, not knowing always how to set boundaries with them. And, you know, Brother Kanjufu says that Black mothers raise their girls and love their boys. They don't expect them to take responsibility for themselves. They are overvalued in some systems and undervalued in others. So we got to make sure as Black women that we also put a lot of energy in these Black mothers who are raising these kids. And it just gets me when I hear parents, I'm talking about mothers now, who will take their kids to a fight so it can be fair, because they got jumped by 3 kids and they need to fight it out. When I hear that kind of mentality, or parents who use guns or have guns as the only means of satisfying a conflict, these are often mothers. So we can't lift up our brothers at the neglect of the mothers who are actually holding these responsibilities. So I'm not gonna blame my sisters, but I want to claim my sisters to know we have a space. So in that space, that's why we do our program, this healing circle, in the form of a circle. Because in a circle, everyone, regardless of age, degrees, or anything, everyone is equal in a circle, and we all have equal access to power, which is in the center of the circle where we hold voice. We use a virtual talking stick because African people, our African culture, is one that comes from organization, respect, and the larger respect, not just for yourself, but it comes toward your elders. And we respect our elders because they are closest to our ancestors. We respect and honor our ancestors because they're closest to our Creator God. So in this circle, we hold the spiritual hope, the spiritual life, the life-giving power, shared power as community members. And in our ritual every week, the elder of the group, whoever they may be, they give us permission to speak by asking us to take the stick. But we also take that stick knowing that with voice comes responsibility to speak the truth and not cower from it. So with that in mind, I'm going to pass the stick to my brother Oliver, who just got here, just so he can share what he knows so much about domestic violence and violence in our community. So brother, here's the talking stick for you.
Thank you, Dr. B. As I was listening to Spike talk, realized that there's some of us that grew up in those environments. And it wasn't just kids that are presently dealing with the circumstance. And I remember my mom took me out of the grade school that I was going to the day that I brought a knife to school. And I brought a knife to school when I was in, I think, the 3rd or 4th grade. And it wasn't a question of if there was going to be a fight. There was a question about when there was going to be a fight. And it wasn't a question that somebody was going to be affected. The question was, were you going to be pulled into it? So I just decided to bring a knife to school because I wanted to even up the odds, to make my situation, more favorable to me. So I got caught with the knife, and my mother came up to the school. She says, "Why did you bring a knife to school?" I said, "Because I wanted to feel safe. And I didn't feel as though I had that many people on my side. So if I had to take care of myself, I had to take care of myself." And there was a study that we did a few years ago with kids on the north side, and we were asking them about violence, and we interviewed younger kids and older kids, and boys and girls. And they had similar themes, but the girls had some things that were a bit different because they also had to deal with violence that boys were perpetrating against them. Even though it may have been some things that girls were doing to each other, they also had to deal with the added fact of what boys were doing to them as well. And the themes still apply. And the homes that had less support with them had the most challenges. The homes that had the more support had fewer challenges. And I keep thinking about kids' sense of safety, feeling safe in the environments and where they are. And there are things that you can do. And again, that is the reason why a lot of times people join gangs, because they want to feel safe. I used to belong to a club. And as I got older, and I didn't like the way that the men were treating each other. but it reminded me of when I was a kid. And so instead of having chances to talk to each other respectfully, to be able to deal with things in disagreements, they didn't behave that way. Then I had to exit the group because there are things that you hold on to, and in terms of how things are going to end up. And so there's this thing about kids getting the chance to feel safe, and where are they going to find the supports to be able to feel safe? And I think if we could deal with some of that, it will reduce the potential for there to be added violence and ongoing violence. Because we can talk about different strategies, but the question that I have is, do those strategies make sense to the kids that we're talking about? Because I think the more they feel comfortable and safe, the less they feel as though they have to protect themselves. And I think that's part of the thing, is that people want to feel as though they're not going to be harmed. They want to be able to protect themselves. But when it gets ingrained in someone, and the strategy about self-protection makes sense, that's the strategy that they may use to be able to deal with it and to promote that approach, in different circumstances and environments. So I have more to say about it, but I think I'll stop there. Maybe we could chew on that for a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. Let me grab the stick from you for just a moment. And what I want to say is that they did a study did a survey. I think it was Kaiser and Princeton, or some schools did a survey of kids when they know there's danger at school. So the teachers may not know, the parents may not know, but the kids are often the first ones to know that somebody's got a weapon in their locker, somebody's gonna say they're gonna kill folks at lunch. Kids happen to know that. And what the studies show, get this, is that they didn't trust adults enough to tell them. They didn't trust the adults at the school because all the teachers kept saying to them is, just ignore him. Just ignore that person. And here you are, a third grader. How are you going to ignore them? You're at lunch with them, in bathroom breaks in the hall with them, waiting to get on the bus with them. How are you going to ignore that? And so teachers and parents had inadequate support advice for kids to make them feel safe. They didn't intervene. They didn't step up and say, honey, it's not for you to fight this battle. Let me talk to Jimmy's mama. Let us get together, because this is going to have to change. Then we're going to talk to y'all together. So some of this is really eroded, and kids don't trust us. They don't know how to use adults, because the use of adults is not always the best option for them. So I'm going to pass the stick to who needs to stick? Sister, is it Dale C? Is that you, sweetie?
Yes, that's me.
Okay, here's the talking stick.
Well, it's a different word, because I'm based here in South Africa, and it's kind of different word. Like here, yeah, it's a kind of different word, and it's kind of difficult to really jump in or to come in, because it's quite different here too.
What tribe are you? What tribe are you in?
Well, Malawi and Tonga.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what part of South Africa are you in?
I'm in Cape Town.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you grow up in the Western Cape or the Eastern Cape, or where?
I actually grew up in England, in UK.
Okay.
So yeah, I haven't been
what
much
part of England?
In Bristol.
Oh,
yeah.
So, a lot of Black people around there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
From
but
Jamaica.
the thing I think about is the tribe that you're in influences how you think, and the customs that you grow up with, and the values that you have. And I understand that I have friends in the UK and friends in South Africa. I have a close friend, Elizabeth Horn Peterson. She's got the South African Faith and Family Institute that's in Cape Town.
Mhm.
And so, and she deals with intimate partner violence there. And so, I guess one of the things that I wanted to say is certainly understanding the environment that you come up in, and understanding people in that environment helps with the judgments that you're going to make about choices and how you respond to things. There's a brother that's in Philadelphia. His name is Dr. Jonathan Rich. And he's written a number of things, but among them, he wrote an article a few years back called The Meaning of Being a Sucker. And so the idea about it, he used to work in the emergency rooms, and he got tired of, he said, mopping up blood from kids that ended up finding their way to the emergency room because they got shot or they were trying to protect themselves from being shot. And he interviewed these kids that he saw, the perpetrators, but also the victims. And they said that they were there because they didn't want to be perceived as being a sucker. And for sucker, for him, meant, or for them, meant being perceived as being weak. Because if you were perceived as being weak, you're the person that's likely to be victimized in some way, or that people will retaliate or respond to you in a way that's going to be problematic. And he's ended up from that leading a program at Drexel University, and I think he's moved on from there. I haven't talked to John in a bit, but one of the things that he did, he ended up setting a program to deal with youth, black male youth, and violence in different cities. So John is a person that has a lot of wisdom associated with that, but it does oftentimes have something to do with how people see themselves in the circumstances. A brother that as a mentor of mine when I was in undergraduate school, Kyle Taylor, who dealt with gangs and dealt with violence and all over the United States. And so he's retired from Michigan State as a professor there in criminal justice. And he's got some interesting perspectives about who you need to talk to about this stuff. I mean, within the community and within the families of the community, to be able to think about it, but also to come up with strategies in terms of how to respond. And I agree, I think we need to be informed by people who are dealing with different challenges within the community. But little ones or young ones know how to be young ones dealing and know how to be in that environment, but not necessarily come up with the best strategies to respond. And I'm not sure we should put the onus of it on them as much as we need to come in and we need to consult with them, but also ask them, what does help look like to you? And what do you think we could do to respond to help you in your situation? And I think that gives some advice to them about dealing with different things. And in Cape Town, there's a brother, a pastor that has a program where he's dealing with men that are coming out of the prison system and that have been in gangs and have been involved in different things. What's interesting is I think that they've come up with environments that are somewhat similar in terms of what they decide to do in that environment, but what they get from being in that environment about the choices that they make. So I think theme-wise is somewhat similar in terms of trying to figure out how to respond to circumstances in particular ways.
Well, I'm
So
glad
I
you
appreciate
said
his
that.
name too, and because he's written a book about different things associated with it too.
I'm glad you said that, Dr. Williams, because what I was trying to get to by asking Sister Daisy, is it Daisy? Is that how you say it? Daisy?
Dalise.
Daisy, okay. By asking her is, I wanted to know how was it different. She said it was different. And since I don't live in that environment, I want to know how other people handle it. Because as long as there are kids, there's going to be conflict, because that's human. So how is it handled by the adults? How does it show up with the schools? How does it show up, with the kids interpersonally, as far as you know?
Okay, as far as I know, I guess there is still that common theme that's going on, where we find that a lot of children are in the homes that are just single parents, especially single mothers, and again, well, my experience is that most of these children, they grow up without any guidance or without any support system, and so that's something that that I've quite observed, where a lot of children, especially in the Black community, they struggle to kind of get better support system, or to grow in a much more a better sort of men or women, because they don't have what those people that might have better support system have. And so here in Cape Town, you find that there are certain areas that you'd find just like just normal, just Black people would live or would stay. And these are kind of categorized the places that are quite dangerous, and most people they would visit, but like most people don't visit either as well. Or the other communities that are where in the US you call them a mixed race, they call here colored. So those are also some dangerous areas that most people would tell you don't go visit those areas, because again, the gangs, and they there are those dangerous areas where there's no support system that is, I guess they grow up without anybody helping them to grow. They don't have any sort of direction. They don't have anybody to help them to know what's the better way. They grow up raising literally on their own. They do things according to what they think is right, or they think, or they see other people doing without really understanding. And that's where my main concern, I feel Africa, the main concern is there, where I feel we don't have much. Most of people don't act in accordance with what again, what they think it's what they know, but not what's right, or making decisions based on informed decisions, rather making decisions based on what they have or what they know. Basically, again. So I think it's kind of, I would say, it's the same theme that's going on, but here in Africa, I just feel lack of knowledge and skills and the education it plays a vital role, because most of people don't know how to do things, or how to make the right decisions, or where to get the right information. They just use what they've basically raised with, or without even, or within, or they don't know. They just act according to what they think it's right, or yeah.
Are you Kosa?
No, I'm a Malawian from Malawi.
Malawi.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me jump in and I'll take the talking stick from Dallas. I didn't have a chance to tell you, Dr. B and Dr. Williams, that she's joining our team and is going to be helping coordinate these programs and the social media around the program. And we're grateful for her interest, and we are excited about the potential. Having her on board is consistent with our vision of creating relationships that are global and local at the same time, to be both places, both here and all of us being where we are, but being together wherever we are. So I'm excited about creating a working relationship with Dallasy to support this program, the conversation, and to build out our social media, supporting and working with our friend and leader in this arena, Brother Vash Body. So, Dallasy, we didn't tell you we were going to throw you in the middle of the program. So thank you for stepping up and sharing the way that you have. But let me turn a twist. I want to bring in Angela Reed, first of all. Angela is here because she's going to talk about an event coming up Sunday. It's kind of on point. The question is addiction. There's an addiction crisis in our community. And from what Spike said at the beginning of the program, this idea of drug dealing, drug selling, probably of alcohol consumption, probably of consumption of other addictive substances, and the behaviors that go with it are at a crisis proportion. So this Sunday, there's going to be a round table that involves Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry, also the Minneapolis Police Chief, a neighbor of mine, Fire Chief Brian Tyner, and members of the Hazelton Betty Ford Foundation, supported by our friend Angela, who's the leader, CEO now, I think it is CEO or COO at Turning Point. And so, Angela, let me bring you on camera just to join the conversation wherever you wish in terms of what we've been saying. All this stuff we're talking about in terms of violence in our community is happening right around you and me, where we live and work every day here in North Minneapolis. So we're vested. We've got personal, safety and community interest in trying to make the community safer and free of the dysfunction and the violence. And so talk about this event. First of all, we'll hopefully be joined by one of your colleagues as well from Hazelton. He's not here yet, but you can tell us about what's going to go on and invite the public to be a part of it.
Well, Dr. Hayden, our loving and wonderful long-term leader, will be presenting and helping host this roundtable, because it's really just important to kind of understand how everything really wraps in together. We have high amounts of disparities, we have high amounts of addiction, high amounts of violence, and the solution has to be well-rounded also. We have been working closely over some period of time with Hazelton, and we're looking forward to really connecting with Jacob Fry and really hearing what the community has to say. And if anybody has ever listened to Dr. Hayden speak, they know that he is a dynamic speaker, and you will definitely leave motivated and excited to try to jump into this game and to impact this collectively. It does take place 11 a.m. on Sunday at Fire Station number 14 in Minneapolis. And they're going to talk a lot about public policy, access, emergency strategies, and, some of the public health responses that think need to be collected. It'll also be broadcast on iHeartRadio and Hazelton Betty Ford Foundation's Facebook. But just to kind of wrap into, everything everybody's been talking about today, I think that, it's really deep. I'm born and raised here in Minnesota, so I've seen trends throughout the years, and when times have increased and got better, and then when times have decreased and got more dangerous. And the things that are going on the last 3 years are just really, really scary, and it really hits on multiple levels because it's really impacting providers, infrastructure, and everybody's so completely personal. So just as much as I'm, worried about the community, I'm worried about our providers too. And I'm worried about, where we'll be in the next 20 years if we don't have an opportunity to really capture and really engage in the plans that our leaders are telling us to do to move forward. I think me as a provider, I'm in my mid-40s, who has been engaged in the community in some way or another since I was a child. The solutions are there. And, we really do just have to keep on pushing and keep on focusing and make our voices and our collective impact louder. I mean, I can hear the passion and pain in Spike's voice, and we as providers know what everybody has really been through. And I have a 19-year-old son. I mean, I try not to check Facebook or hunt him down too much, but every time there's something going on, that's just the first thing that scares me. And we're getting to a very deep, deep level of subconscious trauma. And so the process we take to get out of it has to be multi-sector, multi-level, 5 to 10 years, and wrap in everything that we do, because we're at such a high level of danger, because these opioids are, I call it a beast of another color. This is really one of the things that needs to be brought in the forefront, because the immediate responses are death. We have people who will live with certain lifestyles, and for a certain period of time where their risks are improving, their risks are increasing for what they're going to interact with. But these opioids are really something different. I mean, a person can try at one time and can possibly die. Opioids and fentanyl is 50 times more powerful than morphine. The amount of fentanyl that can kill you can fit on the tip of a sharpened pencil. So the one thing that is different too is that the solutions that are there. The community is there to provide solutions to this violence, and we have the engagement and the willingness to move forward and to do the hard boots to the ground work. And Narcan is our best defense until we can really get people to focus on their sobriety against these opioids. Now, drugs itself can really be credited as being just as damaging and oppressive as slavery was to our community. So now we have it being glamorized with the drug dealing lifestyle. We have generations of people who need help. We have people, mothers need help, fathers need help, the children need help, the grandparents need help. And we also just need a chance to engage socially. Social engagement is just as vital as any other. And with the increase in violence, we're not having the opportunity to kind of wrap our arms around each other like we used to when I was young. And so I think people really don't even get a true view of what Minneapolis, Minnesota, and our community really represents unless you're kind of brought up in that. And I think some of this new generation really doesn't have a true knowledge of our history and the impact and importance of us. They don't know about the way. They don't know about Dr. Bravada. They don't know about the legacies and the things that really created where we are now. And with the inclusion of these opioids, oddly enough, the trends are changing. There's been a huge increase of actually 8th graders using opioids their first time of use, a decrease in 11th graders. And then also there's a stigma with addiction. But we also have to remember that some of these fentanyl overdoses are suicides, and some of them are murders. But we're working on an infrastructure. There's a team called an Overdose Fatality Review Team that the Minnesota Department of Health is operating, where we can analyze data to see where some of the gaps are. But we have to, as provider, myself, my first field is human development and family studies. It's the importance of ACEs. We deal with, not only the fact that you use, but why are you using? And the support to get to the core of that takes us working together very closely.
I see Jeremiah Gardiner is here. Bring him in. Jeremiah, we're using a talking stick to pass the baton or microphone between us and among us. So I'm going to pass the talking stick to you. First, welcoming you to this meeting, this program, but asking you to build on what Sister Angela Reed was saying about the importance of this event this Sunday, addressing the question of addiction and addiction recovery in our community.
Yeah, well, thanks for the invitation, Al. I really appreciate it. And Angela, nice to see you. Well, again, I'm Jeremiah. I work at Hazel and Betty Ford. I'm also a person in long-term recovery. In fact, this year I celebrate 16 years without alcohol or other drugs. And so it's a special time of year for me. It's also a special time of year for everybody in recovery. It's National Recovery Month. Every September, folks around the country make a real special effort to lift up diverse recovery voices and solutions, like Angela was talking about. And there's an effort this year called Mobilize Recovery Across America that is coming to Minnesota on Sunday. And I apologize, I don't know how much Angela shared, but it's a tour bus. It's arriving to Minnesota on Sunday, and then it makes its way to Atlanta and DC and New York City and Philadelphia and circles back to Washington State. And Hazel and Betty Ford's a planning partner for that. And we have, so we're excited to see the bus roll in Sunday, and we have two events on Sunday. One of them is at the fire hall, Fire Station 14, and Dr. Hayden from Turning Point will be on the panel there with Fire Chief Tyner and Mayor Fry and George Lewis from Twin Cities Recovery Project and a couple of others to talk about addiction and this crisis that persists and has persisted for 2 decades. We've lost 1 million lives, sadly, over, since the beginning of, since about the year 2000. So over 2 decades, 1 million lives, a whole city wiped off the earth. And so we still need to raise awareness about it, but not just about the problem. We also need to raise awareness of the solution, let people know that recovery is possible. It's in fact, when people get the right care and support, it's probable, and it's attractive. Like, we get a lot more than we give up when we make the choice to get help and be part of communities that want to be healthy. So that's part of the discussion there. They're also going to, on that panel, we'll talk about a really neat partnership between Twin Cities Recovery Project, which is a recovery community organization here in the Twin Cities that works primarily in the African American community, partnering with the fire department and a couple of other local organizations to create safe stations where folks can walk into the fire department, get a medical exam if they're struggling with substance use, and not only get a quick medical exam, but talk to a peer, somebody else who's been in their shoes and is in recovery and that they can relate to, and get an assessment for a substance use disorder potentially in lickety split time, and get referred to help. And that's a neat, innovative thing that we just thought we wanted to give the stage so that as this bus is rolling through and spotlighting solutions across the country, this is one of them. And then after that, we'll go to St. Paul, and that's the sober tailgate party that I think Angela was maybe talking about. And really excited. Turning Point's, I think, going to have patients there, and Hazel and Betty Ford's going to have patients there, and we'll have staff. I think we have 300 RSVPs and registrations thus far. And we just picked a tailgate party as a theme because it's the opening day of the football season. The Packers are in town against the Vikings, and we'll have a couple of big TVs in the parking lot. So there's sort of a football vibe, burgers, brats. Everybody's welcome. It's free. And there's going to be resources people can interact with, games, and the bus will be there. And they're gathering signatures from people all across the country. So I can't wait to find my spot on the bus and sign my name and add it to the thousands of people around the country that are, working together. It's comforting to me, and I've been going on and on, Al, but it's comforting me to know that how many people are in recovery. I don't know that, especially if you're struggling. When I was struggling, I thought everybody was, drinking and using drugs the same way I was. Mm-hmm. Only in recovery did I really, discover how many people, don't. And still to this day, 16 years in for me, it really means a lot to know others and to have that sort of community and know the community goes beyond me, that it's bigger than me. And, the last thing I'll say, Al, and again, thanks again for the opportunity, is sure. I lost my mom to overdose in 2015, opioids. And so I kind of come at it from both angles. I know the amazing things that can happen in recovery. I also know how tragic it is when people don't get the care that they need. And so that's what makes it so important to be able to gather and talk about solutions, but also and lift up the possibilities, but also remind people that we've got just incredible addiction and mental health problems in our communities. We've got incredible disparities in our communities of color that we need to address in terms of access to care, and a whole host of other issues. And so this is a weekend we're going to be able to look at all that.
Jeremiah and Angela, I have a question for both of you. So I know that there's an event that's taking place at the Firehouse in Minneapolis.
Fire Station 14 on Lowry.
That's what I wanted. What's the address?
It's I will say that's not a public event. If you wanted to go, I would get you on the list, but I will tell you the address is, and the only reason is because it's a small space.
Okay.
But the address for that is 2002 Lowry Avenue North.
Okay. And what time does that start?
That's at 11 a.m. tomorrow.
And then that's
Tomorrow
tomorrow,
or
not Sunday.
I'm sorry,
Sunday.
it's Sunday. Thank you for catching
Okay.
that.
And for the one that's on Sunday in St. Paul, what time does that start? Is it 1 o'clock?
From 1 to 3. Yep. So
1
the
to 3.
fire hall is 11 to 12, and then the tailgate at St. Paul 1 to 3.
Okay. And what's the address for that?
The address thank you for asking. The address for that one is 680 Stewart Avenue. 680 Stewart Avenue, and that's outdoors, so any and all welcome. We'll welcome the problem if we've got too big a crowd.
Okay.
We're almost out of time, but I see my friend Dr. Vincent Hayden is here in the background, and Dr. Hayden, if you can come in and just give us a word or two. Looking forward to whatever comments you might have.
Yeah, thanks, Al. Appreciate it. Thanks, all my friends. I'm like the preacher. I don't want to start saying names because then I'll miss someone. But thank you for having me on. Quickly, Hazer and Betty Ford and Turning Point are really cementing a relationship. And Jeremiah has been really strong in working on what's going on. So many African Americans are dying from overdoses and things of this nature. And I see you have Angela on, so she knows what's happening. But the real deal is that it's time to get started, stop talking about it, and start doing something about it. And I appreciate you, Al. I haven't been able to be on the show lately, but it's still some issues. I've got some things that's coming up. Turning Point has with regards to working with boots on the ground and these kind of organizations. But what I want y'all to do is push. We don't have any room at 1500 Golden Valley Road for the need of our community. So I'm starting to push, where do we get more space and those kinds of things? It is atrocious that when I drive down Lindale and Broadway and I see people just shooting up, and there's nothing I can do about it, because where do I take them if they're willing to go to treatment or change their lives? So I thank you for giving me the opportunity to say a few things, but we're working hard. And these shootings last night is just, it should do something to your heart with our young people dying.
Thank you, Dr. Hayden. Let me ask you to close, Dr. B. I'm going to challenge you here a little bit. Challenge all of us with, and we're going to go a few minutes over time, Vash, but challenge you to sort of align some things in the universe. This morning, I was on a program at 6:30 talking about the death of Queen Elizabeth and how the world is reacting, number one, but also how Black Twitter is reacting, because Black people are, in the Twitter world anyway, taking a different point of view on whether and how we should observe the passing of this monarch. And I think that the conversation has less to do with the human being, but more to do with the institution, what the monarchy represent, and what they represent in the context of the history of African people, since we are Africans, really in people of color throughout the world, the native people in this hemisphere, the people that were brought here like us through the transatlantic slave trade, and also people that experienced murder, theft, subjugation, colonialism, imperialism throughout Africa and Asia. And so how is it that, how must we, number one, separate our human concern for any human being who experiences transition, on the one hand, celebrating longevity, but on the other hand, how must we look at and ought we be examining the history, the consequence of structures that this monarchy represented, and the disadvantage, the destruction it unleashed on humanity. And the question is, how does that relate to Dr. Hayden, our children shooting each other in North Minneapolis? Is there a connection? Are these two totally separate things? I think they're all connected. Dr. B, what do you think?
I would like to say, I'm sorry, my husband's phone is in the room. Hope it stops soon. Anyway, I'd like to say that one of the biggest issues is recognizing the collectivist, from a collectivist perspective, that no matter what happens around us, we are all connected. And I understand, as the Queen died, I was sad she died. She was a seemed a very sweet, well-dressed old lady who seemed to have a big heart. And they showed yesterday on TV all of the colonized areas that British had taken over the course of, many, many years, and how the numbers dwindled down to practically nothing at her death. And some of the chatter among especially Black folks who look at history and politics, we had to admit that she was the forebearer of colonization. She represented, a whole network of people who continued to bastardize, marginalize, capitalize on the needs of BIPOC communities, of cultures that were different, stealing and robbing the best of their resources. And I think one of the things that hit me is that in that process, and I keep saying it, is that deep, deep holding of a mental side process. Again, if folks who listen remember that mental side is the psychological way to mentally dehumanize someone else. That practice of mental side is mentally killing off the humanity of someone else. And when that happens, not just on an individual level, but on a systemic level, that's when we see the destruction of nations. That's where we see the destruction of families. And that mental side of killing off of those of others requires that those who are practicing mental sides to lose their own humanity as well. That is why brother can kill brother, because I'm no more human than you are. Or if you're human, I'm a better human because I'm a Crip and you're a Blood. I'm a gangster disciple and you're not. So all of this goes into sharing power, recognizing what it means to survive beyond ourselves, to believe in that collectivist basis of all of us as human beings, and to hold value to the African principle of consubstantiation, which means that all living things are connected, and we are connected to each other and the earth and the sky and everything in it. And that destruction of collectivism, choosing over it, individualism, me-ism, not we-ism, no longer saying I am because we are. Those factors make us lose our spirits. And we as a country, we as a Black community, we as BIPOC allies with each other, we forgot who we are.
Yeah.
We forgot who we were created to be. We have spiritual and psychological amnesia. And our job as healers is to liberate the spirit so that we recognize that we are all connected. And if one goes down, eventually we all will. And with that, I pass the talking stick to Elder.
Well, Dr. B, we're going to close it right there. Thank you all so very much. Delacy, good to see you. Welcome aboard. Dr. Hayden, thank you. Angela and Jeremiah, obviously, thank you to Dr. Williams and to my partner, my writing partner, Brenda Lyle-Gray. I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation with Al McFarlane, the Healing Circle. We'll see you next time. Take care.